Hey, what's going on, you crazy kitty cats? It's Elder here. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to say sorry, as this is not the video I promised you guys. Developments on that video are continuing to be made every day. It should be really great, and I'm trying to get the best picture I can for you guys. I just want to let you guys know that it will absolutely be worth the wait. With that out of the way, today, we're going to be looking into the phenomenon that has been come to be known as the hum. Now, if you haven't heard of the hum, it's a mysterious phenomenon in which a person constantly hears noises that are often described as comparable to a distant diesel engine idling or some other low frequency. Some early cases date back over 100 years to the early 1900s. However, research on the phenomenon itself started really picking up around the late 1970s, along with cases growing more and more frequent. Now, this prospect in itself isn't overly strange. However, the strange similarities surrounding these humming cases, as well as the lengths some people have gone to stop the hum from happening, is, well, to say the least, quite shocking. When you add all of this with the fact that there are a strange group of people who believe that those who can hear this hum are some kind of chosen people, this isn't only a strange phenomenon, but potentially quite dangerous and much darker than anyone initially thought. As I've said before, the hum is nothing new, with the phenomenon really picking up in frequency around the 1970s. These hums have been reported mainly in the US and the UK. Many of these cases are generally localized and seem to affect certain areas or groups of people in the same locale, and generally, they're reported as such, with some of the most publicized work on the hum being the hum of Taos, New Mexico, the hum of Kokomo, Indiana, and the hum of Largs, Scotland. If you look into this yourself, you'll notice that most of the cities named are quite small and rural, which is one of the few similarities between these cases. More on this later. Something else quite evident when looking at some of the personal experiences involving this hum are the sort of guidelines it seems to follow, the most common of which being that you can hear it much better indoors, and many cases stop almost completely as soon as you walk outside, only to be greeted by the same familiar noise when you get back inside. And I know what you may be thinking, this could be an appliance or some other electronic interference that you're hearing, and it doesn't appear to be the case. Not only does the noise seem far too low to come from an appliance in a house, many times people have gone as far to shut off everything in their house in an attempt to stop the noise, to no avail, with some people going as far to cut power off from their homes completely to stop this noise from bothering them, only to be greeted by a louder, more obnoxious hum. Now, as I said before, sure, this is strange, but it's just a slight annoyance, right? Sadly, there have been many documented cases of people taking their own lives to stop the hum, as nothing else seems to work, and it reportedly drove them insane. Now, this isn't exactly normal for this phenomenon, but some people take it quite worse than others, and for all we know, it could be worse case to case. There does appear to be a specific demographic affected by the hum as well. As I've said before, small towns are quite a common theme as well, as this being the most prominent in middle-aged people. The last thing you'll notice when researching this is the amount of educated people debating whether or not this is something called tinnitus. Now, if you haven't heard of tinnitus, it's a perception of noise or ringing in the ears that affects about 1 in 5 people. This is far more than the measly 2% that have claimed to have heard the hum, and it's generally related to hearing loss, which, while common for middle-aged people, is far more prominent in the elderly. But we'll dig deeper into this in a moment. Maybe the most scary thing I found when searching for personal experiences on the hum are a group of people who believe that those who can hear it are some kind of chosen people, and generally they believe that the hum could be from extraterrestrials, the government, or even some divine deity. So what could be going on here? There's always the potential of tinnitus, but it doesn't seem to match up perfectly with these widespread reports of the hum, and I don't believe it's ever severe enough to feel the need for suicide. With such ardent opinions on both sides of this argument, I set out to get answers. Are the people that claim to hear this crazy? Or is there something more intentional and potentially sinister at work here? The first person I was able to talk to was a fisherman. He wanted to share his, as well as his crew's, personal experience with what could only be the hum, and well, here it is. I was awoken by an awful drumming type noise. Fearing something was wrong, I immediately got up in the dark cabin. The skipper was already up, and we went together to investigate the noise. When we got on deck, the noise diminished substantially, so we started going through the boat's external compartments looking for the noise. What was worrying at the time was that we couldn't identify the direction where the noise was coming from, as it seemed to be coming from out of the hull of the boat. We then woke the other deckhand, fearing that there was something seriously wrong and emergency action may be required. Unfortunately for us, his response was, "What noise? I can't hear anything. Are you idiots playing a prank?" Anyhow, we restarted the generator and the noise disappeared into the other boat working noises. About a week later, the same thing happened. Almost an identical hum sound, and of course, the other deckhand didn't hear it. This time, the skipper was brave enough to get on the VHF radio and make inquiries from other boats if they knew what was causing this noise. Instantly came back replies and chatter from other boats within, I guess, a 100-kilometer radius, saying that they were having the same problem and they could hear it as well. Theories on what could be causing the hum are quite plentiful, and as I've said before, there are plenty of things we know the hum isn't, but very few things that we know that it is. Due to the polarizing nature of this, some completely rule the phenomenon out as some kind of mass delusion or mass hysteria, and deniers of the hum believe that people only hear it if they want to, kind of you're tricking yourself into it. But the lengths that I've seen some people go to prevent the hum from happening are, again, to say the least, quite shocking. If this were some kind of joke or the hum didn't really exist, why go as far to take your own life over it? It just seems far too real. The side of ardent hum supporters say that it does in fact exist, and to say that it doesn't is insensitive. They generally believe that it is a physical sound, however, there are many that believe that it isn't a physical sound, that only a select few people can hear, for various reasons. The first and most prominent theory is that it could be tinnitus, which would make the person believe they're hearing some kind of consistent low pitch, and it would even account for not being able to stop the noise. But this theory isn't without holes, as many people who don't have tinnitus hear the hum, and many people who do have it don't hear the hum. It just doesn't appear to be connected, and certainly not in the kinds of patterns we see. If it were some kind of health problem, you wouldn't think there would be such concentrated and localized outbreaks of the hum that even entire towns hear. It just seems strange again. Like I said before, there are in fact people who can hear the hum, and some that can't, that believe it could be of extraterrestrial or potentially government origin, citing the testing that the US has done on audio warfare, and these people believe that the US could be testing it out on small towns in the US and England just to see its effects on people. And while this would account for the localized outbreaks, it just doesn't make sense for it to only be affecting so few people in these towns, and this doesn't even account for any motive they would have. I'm not ruling it out, but it just seems slightly far-fetched. The final theory I got from talking to some people on a forum site is that they believe the hum is some kind of noise that happens, whether atmospheric or beneath the earth, that causes these very low frequencies, and the physical noise you could potentially need very good ears to hear it, with these kinds of low frequencies. As we get older, there are frequencies children can hear that we can't. They propose that it may be an audible noise that very few people can hear, and they wouldn't be able to hear it even if it were in large cities, just for the sheer amount of noise that's constantly going on with cars and machines, which would account for the small town nature of it. But this theory isn't necessarily perfect, as the percentage is so low that would hear this. And if they're right, what else goes on that we can't hear? In the end, this is probably one of the phenomenon that I have the least idea about what's going on. There's just so few things that work perfectly, it could be anything. Is the sound even real, or is it just an illusion? Again, something like a personal health problem would fit very well, but why would it flare up on a certain locale of people all at the same time in a specific area? It just doesn't make perfect sense. Be sure to tell me if you guys have any theories in the comments section down below, and feel free to look into the phenomenon yourself. As I said, this was a lot of fun to look into, albeit very polarizing. There are such strong academic opinions that vary case to case on both sides, it's hard to get kind of an unfiltered look at this. Be sure to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure to click that bell to get notified when I upload. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I hope you all have a great week. I'll see you guys on Friday with a hopefully very special video. Peace.